Welcome to A Meaningful Marketplace.
I'm Sarah Masoni from Oregon State University's Food Innovation Center, where I've helped countless dreamers launch their new food products. It's the science of taking a food delight from the kitchen to mass manufacturing and still keeping its great taste. That's what I do. I've been called the woman with the $1 million palate, although I haven't tried to cash that check yet. Listen in weekly for real-life stories.
I'm Sarah Marshall, owner of Marshall's Hot Sauce and author of Preservation Pantry, modern canning from root to top and stem to core. I love inspiring business owners to get started on their journeys, encouraging folks to be part of their local community, and I'm excited to help business owners tell their stories. Join us as we explore the journeys of women entrepreneurs in the food and beverage industry. Hello and welcome to Masoni and Marshall, the Meaningful Marketplace. We are here weekly to discuss the journeys of food entrepreneurs. We are glad that you've joined us today as we bring you stories of hope and inspiration. This is Sarah Marshall, owner of Marshall's Hot Sauce. And Sarah Masoni is on a family camping trip this week, so she won't be on, but instead we have been partnering with the Regional Food Business Center to bring you guests from 6 state regions. And we're currently meeting with business owners from the great state of Colorado. So I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Mike Gabel from Colorado State University's Food Innovation Center. Thank you for being our Colorado expert, Mike.
You're very welcome. Good to see you, Sarah Marshall.
It's good to see you too.
And it was great to see you in person last week.
I know, so rad, right? Who thought that would ever happen?
You were much taller in person, I'll tell you that much. And so
that's what people always say. I don't know, maybe because I'm like hunched over in a chair when we're recording, so nobody knows my true self.
No, but it really was awesome to meet you and to spend a little bit of time with you at the Fancy Food Show. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was so fun. So just for all of our listeners, we were at the Fancy Food Show this week. Sarah and I tend to go and find our favorite items, and we will, of course, check in about that when she's back. We like to talk about all the new fun businesses that we find and things that we had and things that we did. So we will do that. But for now, Mike, tell me about some favorite things that you found at the food show.
It's interesting. We were talking a little bit before we started recording, but it's been 20 years since I've been back to the Fancy Food Show. So it's eye-opening what has changed. And so I went as a student when I was going to school in Davis, and I think the show was in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And back in the day, it was all fancy food. It was, olive oils and imported salumi and cheeses and different things. And it really wasn't, value-added food products. And so there was a lot more there. There was a lot of the different pavilions that they had all from all over the world, from Spain to China to Turkey to everywhere else. And so that was just fun. One of my favorite items, which was super interesting, my story here is this company called HBAF. It's a South Korean company. It's an almond company. So they had to do coated almonds. I don't know if you saw them.
I did.
Yeah, and they had a whole bunch of different flavors. They had like savory flavors, chocolate coated ones, whatever else. So loved all the different flavors they had. Apparently, so I have a daughter, my second oldest daughter, did a study abroad in Taiwan. And so she had a couple weeks at the end after finals, and she was touring around Japan and South Korea, and came back and she's like, I found the greatest store. So apparently they have these big retail stores where they have probably 20 or 30 different types of almonds, these coated almonds. And so she'd go in there and she brought us back a big bag. Actually, I was disappointed at the end of the show because they didn't have many samples left. I was hoping to bring some back with me to Colorado. And then we show up there, and her daughter had gotten home the day before we got back to Colorado. And she had a big supersized bag of these HBAF almonds. So that was probably one of the favorite things. Lots of just, things on trend that we see, a lot of boba teas, things, little kits that you can buy. I enjoyed this yuzu ramen that they had. That was like just a super fun flavor. I'm trying to think of some of the other highlights. What were some of the highlights for you, Sarah Marshall?
Well, I agree. I had a lot of fun in the, so they break some of the sections up into different areas. So the Japan section was lovely. That's where those almonds were. They had a product I really liked that was a cheeseburger popcorn, which I saw it and I was like, oh gross. But then I tried, I tried it and it really did taste like a cheeseburger. It was so
Really? I
good.
didn't try
It
that.
was
Oh,
shocking. And they had some almonds too that were like a garlic bread almond, and it really tasted like garlic bread. So it was really fun. That was a fun aisle. I always like to check out the stuff from Japan and from Korea too, because a lot of times they'll incorporate some kind of like whatever trends are in beauty products like into food. So I like a lot of the like collagen candies and collagen soups and stuff like that. That's always really fun to check out. So I had a good time in that zone.
super fun. Yeah, there was actually another one that I really enjoyed was a sweet potato maker. So they import sweet potatoes. And so we went to Japan last spring. And so just in any supermarket, you can get a piping hot sweet potato. They just have a holding bin. You pick it up and you just eat it on the street. And so they had someone doing that there, but they also had like a dehydrated sweet potato slices that they vacuum pack. And so that was really super delicious too. And so I brought a sample back to my wife, joined me on the trip to New York. And so she said, you have to go get a sample, even if you have to buy it, get a sample of that. And so I went the next day and got a few packages. So it was awesome.
Fun. Well, yeah, I think one of the highlights for me was definitely getting to meet you and see you and be in this section with all the regional food business people that we've sort of met and talked to. Because before we started on Colorado, we were doing Wyoming, so I got to meet some of the people that we interviewed for that show. So that was really fun. So
Fun.
I had a really great time. It was such a good show.
Nope, and all the people I talked to said this is the show to be at. They said they've been to Expo West, they've been to a lot of the different ones, but they said even the fancy food show in the winter version in Las Vegas, they said this is the one where you get a lot of the different buyers. You talk to Whole Foods and Walmart and a lot of the different big retailers. They said it's just great to kind of have the flow through of these different buyers. So it was fantastic. Everyone really enjoys that show.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad we both got to go together. That was so fun. And we would like to encourage you to connect to your state by signing up to the Regional Food Business Center newsletter. It's a breeze to sign up. You just go to Northwest Rocky Mountain Regional Food Business Center.com. You hit connect with us and choose the button to receive newsletters. And we want to thank our sponsor for supporting Masoni and Marshall. Thank you for helping us to spread the word about small business owners and entrepreneurs. Let's hear a word from our sponsor. The Northwest and Rocky Mountain Regional Food Business Center is the proud sponsor of the Meaningful Marketplace podcast, giving a voice to food from across the 6-state region of Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Oregon, Washington, and Wyoming. The Food Business Center supports Northwest and Rocky Mountain food industry makers as part of the USDA's National Network of Food Business Centers, supporting a more resilient, diverse, and competitive food system as a go-to source for small and mid-tier food and farm businesses with a focus on underserved communities, providing education in the form of technical knowledge, business programs, and industry news. We sponsor trade shows, meetups, and conferences to connect growers, producers, retailers, distributors, and processors, all to stimulate business and raise the standards of our storied food industry. Join us as we travel through the 6-state region, learning more about food makers, food hubs, and food systems. Visit the website at Northwest Rocky Mountain Regional Food Businesses.com to get connected. So I have the pleasure of introducing our guest today. I would like to introduce you to Aaron Wagner. Aaron is the owner of Elevated Gourmet, making handcrafted ketchup and Bloody Mary mix in Denver, Colorado. We're delighted to have you on the show today, Aaron. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And we want to make sure to connect our listeners to you. Can you give us the best way for them to follow your story online and your social media?
Yep. So absolutely. So Elevation Gourmet on Instagram. Also, you can check us out on our website. It's elevationgourmet.com. Two good ways to find products and be able to order them and access those products.
Cool. We'll make sure to list it on our Instagram too and in our story notes so people can find you directly. We really like to start at the beginning of your story. So when did you start your business and what inspired you to start Elevation Gourmet?
The business was really started on accident. Had an old family recipe that I really grew up with. My great-grandma made it. Grandma made it, and it just got passed down. My aunts and uncles were making it. And it ended up in my brother's hands, and I had some friends over, and they used up the whole bottle in one sitting. So I asked my brother for another bottle. He's like, no, it's a pain in the neck to make. It takes all day. He says, why don't I just give you the recipe? So he sends me the recipe, and I'm like, what am I going to do with 1.5 gallons of ketchup? So I put in a bunch of random beer bottles, and one of them worked for Daniel Asher at Root Down and Linger. That was about 13 years ago, right at the beginning of when the farm to table restaurant push started happening, and bigger chefs were coming to Colorado and being more creative, and the audience was starting to become more receptive to, really healthier, cleaner food and better food. And so really, Eric gave it to Daniel, Chef Daniel Asher, and Daniel tasted it. He's like, yeah, I love it. I want it in all my restaurants. So was super lucky in the beginning because, you start with a guy of that caliber and he's behind the product. And then he's like, go to the Four Seasons, go talk to Chef Simon, go, walk into the Four Seasons. Hey, Daniel sent me. Oh, what do you got? So I was very, very fortunate in the beginning to get that kind of response. But, I happened to be dating a graphic designer at the time, which was by luck and chance, and come up with the name, come up with the logo. Had really never spent time in a commercial kitchen. So called some friends that had worked in restaurants, and, just started really from ground zero with, a few bucks put into the project and finding a commissary kitchen and going through the testing to make sure it's shelf stable and learning a ton and asking lots and lots of questions and, getting together with a couple friends in a commissary kitchen and trying to figure out how to bottle this stuff on a bigger scale, putting it in some 12-ounce bottles and then at the time also some 5-gallon buckets. And really lots of mistakes, lots and lots of mistakes, lots of carrying stuff all over up and downstairs. And, I really just, wanted to test the markets before getting too over my head. Because I know it is a very tough business. Even back then, the people you talk to are like, yeah, it's a challenge. So that being said, it was really bootstrapped. And, we've been very careful to grow, within our means. And, from there, we moved from the commissary kitchen into a shared kitchen space with a couple other companies that were growing. And then eventually 7-8 years ago, we moved into where we are now, which is a pretty full grown operation. Everything is pretty well automated. So bottles go on one end of the conveyor, they go down, they get, filled, capped, sealed, date coded, labeled all the way through. And then somebody's checking the bottles at the end and they go in boxes, palletized and get shipped. So I also knew, being in this space, being in a very competitive space with some of the big guys, that we had to be able to produce a lot of products and be very automated to be able to be price competitive. So the beauty of that is, our prices as everything's gone up in price, we've been able to bring our prices down. So that's kind of fun, even though everything's gotten more expensive, we just figure out other ways to make it happen. So
yeah, that's a great story, and one that we haven't heard from many of our makers. Usually we are talking to people that go from maybe their home kitchen to a shared kitchen, and generally will use maybe a co-packer if they're looking to still grow bigger. But you really created your own facility with automated equipment and things like that. What was the biggest challenge of doing that?
no sleep.
You're like, everything was a challenge.
Yeah, I used to have a hammock hanging up in here in the office, and I won't lie, I have taken many naps on that. So, really, the biggest challenge is containing all the madness. We're going through COVID and all that kind of mess was a lot of chefs left the industry. Mm-hmm. And they went in, they became restaurant consultants, they became software salespeople, just got out of it. They really realized how much fun they have with their families. And I love that for them, but it was relationships that we've had for 10 years. And then they kind of, went away and left the industry. So that's been a real big challenge. So now we're back out reestablishing relationships. A lot of the chefs that we work with, because we're really restaurant and institutional driven. Mm-hmm. So that kind of rattled up the whole, gave everybody a breath of fresh air, so to speak. and they, a lot of them left. So reestablishing that part, we've got a ton of chefs come in from, Chicago, New York, even, Albuquerque, a lot of these guys that we work with, really from everywhere. So it's rebuilding those relationships again. And we are starting to focus more on retail, which is a whole nother challenge. But, it's the food business. You're going to get beat up every day. You got to expect it when something's not breaking or, something's not going wrong. We always say, that's when you can start to panic because something really bad can happen.
Yeah.
So,
you're just waiting for the next thing.
Waiting for something to explode. But, it's a rewarding business. You get to work with all these incredible people. And that's probably the biggest part of it. Growth is fun. We export to Costa Rica, Panama, El Salvador. We're working on some stuff in Mexico now. So that's kind of, fun stuff. So we'll be down at a show in Costa Rica in September. So it'll be fun to go to grocery stores and see it on shelves and things like that there. So it all starts from a pot in my kitchen,
Yeah,
so
that's
accident, really.
That's super rad. I love your growth and your story and your struggles. Like, I think the struggles are important to hear about and talk about as well. But I really want people to understand exactly what you make. So let's walk people through what it would be like to experience one of your ketchup products.
So everything that we do, I'm a big health nut. So everything we do is very clean, as clean and natural as possible. So we make a variety of we make 5 different kinds of ketchup, ranging everything from sugar-free with absolutely no sugar in it except for the sugars you get from the tomatoes, to a sriracha ketchup, to a vindaloo, which is the Indian curry. So we've got a good variety. Our restaurant style is most like a traditional American style ketchup. And then we've got but we never use corn syrup, no GMOs, no thickeners, just, stuff that we could whip up in your kitchen pretty quick. And then we've also launched the Bloody Mary mix, which has done fantastic. We've got that in, cans, gallons, same thing, it's vegan, gluten-free. So we actually make the Worcestershire that we use in both our Bloody Mary mix and our barbecue sauce. So we try to make it to appeal to everybody with, as far as dietary restrictions, gluten-free, soy-free, just to try and check as many boxes off as possible. And use only, the freshest California tomatoes, which is a big difference. All the ingredients we use are super high quality. And it's very noticeable that you can tell what, we're using the quality.
Perfect. And I always like to ask people this question, but do you have a flavor that tells your story best?
Well, the original one is the old family recipe. And it's super fun. It's unique. It's more of a European style. I won't lie. My favorite's probably the sriracha. I like a little spice. I grew up in Southern Colorado. So, naturally I like a little bit of spice, and it blends with some spice with a little sweetness. So it's super fun and it's good stuff. Yeah.
What defines a European style ketchup, Aaron?
Less sugar and a lot more spices. So okay. A lot more complex flavor profile, really. A traditional, American style ketchup is super sweet with some tang and a hint of salt. Not many spices. The European style has, 10 different spices in it. So you're getting a lot more complex, flavorful ketchup.
It's fantastic. I wanted to back up to something you said earlier, because you guys started out mainly in food service, and then you're thinking about going into retail. And so exploring that, where I think a lot of the founders start in retail and then kind of as an afterthought go, explore food service later on. What have been some of the struggles? You said that's been a challenge. What are the struggles getting into retail for you?
The market's really been flooded nationwide. I think that was the other thing with COVID, is a lot of people didn't have anything to do. So they dug through the shoe boxes and found the old recipes of Aunt Karen or whoever it was, somebody's grandma or mom's recipes. And then, and I get calls for it all the time, people looking to co-pack their sauces. So I think that's kind of one of the things we're in this limbo of the market's being flooded with, Bloody Marys, for example. There's probably 15, 20 companies in Colorado that I know of that make Bloody Mary mix, which is great. Yeah, it's fun to see, and we are I believe we're one of the leading producers of craft foods is Colorado. So I think that's one of the challenges, because these buyers are getting bombarded with all these different products, and we also are competing with people that are paying for shelf space. We've got the huge conglomerates that are buying shelf space, and you'll hear some horror stories about some people that I know that they get into the shelf and they're in the ice cream and they've got a fantastic product, and then Talente or somebody comes in, they say, yeah, we don't like it, we're going to buy that guy's shelf space, and then they call him and say, hey, you got 400 Kroger stores and we want your you got to come pick up your ice cream. And stuff like that happens. And what's he going to do with $1 million worth of ice cream or $500,000 worth of ice cream? That's the bad part of it. So we've been very careful. I've heard enough of the challenging stories like that you got to grow smart, you got to grow fast, but not too fast. So retail in the US is a lot tougher here than it is out of the country, from what I've experienced from my point of view. So because there's not that many craft food companies in Costa Rica, there's and American products are cool. It's really that simple. So that's that's the good part of it. Not being down there is more of a challenge, but they do things a lot different. They're out surfing and hanging out and riding motorcycles. They get to emails and phone calls when they get to them. So a little more unique.
And for our listeners that are thinking about exploring going into food service, what do you have any advice for them on how to connect with chefs, or your favorite ways to create products that are just specifically for food service businesses?
A lot of that, a lot of the chefs are accessible. A lot of the really good, like a lot of these guys are in the trenches. You've got these events like Top Taco and the Steak One, and you've got all these events / where the chefs are there on site, and that's created, that's helped us even still to this day. We'll go and do an event, or you don't even have to display at the event, but you can go there and say, oh yeah, I make a hot sauce. Okay, well then you need to be at Top Taco, or you make a salsa or tortillas or whatever it is, and you can target those events and at least get in front of those chefs for a hot second, or get a card, or find out who's in charge, or we still have people from events we've done a year or two ago that we're starting to work with, or we've worked with in the past, or hey, finally, okay, so we're starting to make more. For example, we make a lot of different barbecue sauces for some of the top restaurants around town, because labor costs here are high. We can make 400 gallons of their barbecue sauce in 3 hours, where it would take them, they've got to have somebody, full time making sauce all day, every day. It just isn't cost effective. So that's really where we can come in and help people out. So, I would encourage smaller producers, if you've got something. A guy that came to me a couple of weeks ago he's a forager. So he's doing essentially like a pine needle syrup. So, it's a great replacement for maple syrup, and maple syrup's crazy expensive. So, I think you just got to be involved in the community and go to these events and ask whoever you can find, wherever. You're turning over a lot of rocks to kind of meet people and see who knows what and who. And Rich from Rockalita, is a great resource for a lot of those. He knows everybody in town, and he's got a great organization where they're bouncing resources back and forth. It's great.
Perfect. Well, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, I have a game for you guys involving the altitude of Colorado. So we'll be right back.
Oregon State University's College of Agricultural Sciences and the Food Innovation Center are proud sponsors of Meaningful Marketplace. With a mission to serve all Oregonians, we are committed to giving voice to those whose food and agricultural stories are not always heard. By providing access and opportunity for a more diverse and just food system, because food brings people together.
Okay, so we're back from our break, and on your website and your social media, a big part of you talking about what you do and connecting it to where you are is that the elevation in Denver is 5,280 feet. So I want you to tell me how that influences your product, but then I have a altitude game for you too.
That's a good question. I would assume, and I've had that thought before, so that's a great question, is there's less oxygen here. And in the food business, oxygen is the enemy. So Mike probably knows more about this than I do. So I might have to pass it off to him. But I would say since there's less oxygen in the air, maybe it'll last longer. I don't know, Mike?
Yeah, I don't know about the oxygen. It could. I could see that. I think that the dryness of the weather, just without the humidity, I think that plays an important factor into the shelf life of a lot of products out there. I know, the big thing they always talk about too is the baking, adaptations. If you have a bread or, some you have to add in the more flour or whatever else to have it just because of the elevation. I'm not sure about the oxygen aspect of it.
Yeah, I thought Sarah was going to be on the show when I came up with this question, and I thought she would tell us for sure. She would know, but I figured I didn't know if it would affect to like color or if you use water in it. I wasn't sure if any of those things come into play. For me, because I like water bath all my stuff, I know that the altitude changes, canning process, so I just wasn't sure on that. But here's my game for you guys. Are you ready?
Yes.
So. And I got this information from Colorado State University Extension Program. So, right, probably within your building, Mike. So don't feel like you have to know it because it's not your department. But my question is, what are the top vegetables that grow at your altitude? And the winner will receive a bottle of my hot sauce because that's all I have to give. So what do you think? I have the
how many are we picking here?
I have the top 9.
Oh, okay.
So
and are we talking across Colorado?
Yeah, this was anything above your altitude was 5,000 feet. So anything above 5,000 feet and above.
Okay.
Interesting.
Let's say you each get 3 guesses, and whoever gets the most right is winner.
I'm guessing. I'm thinking the elevation like Grand Junction across, it's got to be just as high, if not. We're going to go with peaches. Do our Palisade peaches grow at above 5,000 feet, Sarah?
Well, you're probably right, but I just did vegetables.
Oh, vegetables. Okay. Vegetables.
Hey, Mike, I was with you there too, because that's the no-brainer. We're the peach capital.
Shoot.
I had to look up fruits in a totally different section, so we went with vegetables.
Well, let me wager this a little bit, and this seems like contrary to what you would think. But do potatoes grow in higher elevations?
Potatoes, you got one.
Okay, and we're San Luis Valley.
Okay, you're up, Aaron. What'd you say?
Beets.
Ooh, beets was top 20, but not top 10.
Oh, surprising. Okay.
This again seems contrary because you think of them in the plains, but I know we have our Uray sweet corn. Is that high enough? Does that grow? Uray is pretty high, so I'm not sure if it grows around Uray. Sweet corn?
No corn.
No.
Right, Aaron. You could catch up here.
Ooh, I would have to say some lettuce, but
we're striking out, Aaron.
We gotta spend some more time.
What about squash? I'd imagine squash.
Yep, squash. You got it,
Beans.
Mike. And specifically winter squash, but squash was on there. Beans, yes.
Yeah, I know we export a lot of beans from Colorado.
Yeah, and specifically bush beans is the most popular, but beans was like, all around across the top. So you guys are tied.
Okay, I'm going for tomatoes.
Tomatoes, yep. All right, Aaron.
Uh-oh.
You could tie. You could win with a tie.
Peas.
Peas. I don't see peas on here. So, Mike, you are the winner.
I got to get my feet in some more soil then, I guess.
The other ones that were in the top 9, cabbage, carrots, broccolis. Thank
Thanks,
you
dude.
for playing the game, Mike. I'll send you a bottle of hot sauce.
That sounds perfect. Looking forward to it.
So, Aaron, you had mentioned your Bloody Mary mix.
Yes,
I noticed that you do it in a can. Do you
we
have
do.
a canning line at your facility?
We do. Yep. We have 2 canning lines here at the facility, both Colorado made by Wild Goose.
That's so rad.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Do you
Um,
do you can things, stuff for other people, or you just do it for your Bloody Mary mix?
we just do it for the Bloody Mary mix, but we do have a couple people that have approached us about doing some of their other things that would be non-alcohol. Once you get into the alcohol side, it becomes a big challenge. So,
Yeah.
well, we're working on a couple of things that we would do. I mean, we do have the equipment to be able to can just about anything, which is really cool because we're able to heat stuff, and we've got without getting too technical and nerding out on canning.
Yeah,
But yeah, we could do carbonated beverages. We can do non-carbonated beverages. We've had some requests for hop water and things of that nature, like non-alcoholic beverages. That's kind of
very
a
cool.
bit of a craze right now. Yeah, so very cool.
My favorite thing to drink when I'm on an airplane is the Bloody Mary mix, not with alcohol in it, just plain by itself. I don't really drink it any other time, just when I'm on an airplane.
Yeah,
Have you
yeah.
approached any airlines about having your specific mix on their airline?
Yeah, we're in talks with one of the Central American airlines. That's kind of
Cool.
why we launched
fantastic.
it. Yeah, so that could be really cool. One of the distributors we work with there just got awarded the contract for Copa Airlines. So we will see them again for sure in September, twice in September, actually. We'll meet with them. So hopefully we can get something going with them. And Frontier would be a great one. We just need to reestablish that because, doing everything that we do in-house, everything can be custom. So we could technically do a branded Frontier Airlines Bloody Mary mix that would be really cool. So put all their wild animals on the tails and all that kind of fun stuff. So
Yeah, that would be so rad. What a perfect partnership. As soon as I saw your cans, I was like, those need to be on an airplane.
yeah, I know. It's probably a lot healthier than the one that they're serving on when you're traveling.
That's the thing. I think
No.
that's like why it's the only time I drink it. I'm like, oh, this is my airplane treat because
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
definitely not good for me.
Yeah, I'll send you some good stuff. I'll get your address. I'll send you some good stuff. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Well, we like to ask if you have any advice for people that are currently dreaming up a business, because we know that you mentioned making mistakes, and I do think that's part of being a business owner. So if we can help people avoid any of those things, let's put it out there.
The advice: get used to getting punched in the face. If you want the honest truth, it's not easy. I think that's one of the biggest things. Even to this day, I've been in this business for 13 years now, and there's always something. That's kind of the saying. It's always something. But it can be extremely rewarding. It's you got to grind. You got to get creative. You have to do things that nobody's probably tried before. You got to be fearless. You got to be relentless, and be passionate about it. If you're not passionate about it, because you'll have really rough days. You'll have some fantastic days, but you're gonna have a lot of rough days too. And when you look back, you're like, even friends that I've had that have been in the business for a long time, it's like we all kind of giggle about it, but it is a grind. You got to be creative. It's a different beast. You got to work for free for a really long time too. So
Yeah.
don't expect that paycheck for a few years. But it's funny because people come up to me now. Oh, it's great. I'm going to do this. I'm like, okay, cool. If you're fine not getting paid for 5 years, do it. So, but it's great. You meet the people you meet. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I've been in a crazy amount of businesses, which is a whole nother show probably. But the food business, the passion you get from the chefs and the creative people, the people in the industry that are willing to help you, that help each other. It's pretty fascinating. It's like nothing else. Somebody, if I'm meeting with somebody, or, I come across somebody, I'm like, oh, well, you got to call this guy or call this girl and see, oh, you need this product. Cool. Call them. So we're always everybody's, for the most part, a lot of people are helping a lot of other people out, and pushing other products, even though there's no benefit in it for me. All ships rise with the tide. So, be ready to grind. Yeah. That's the advice I can say, and learn, and you're going to make a ton of mistakes, and you're going to do a ton of stuff that you can't believe you did, but that's how it is. And, but
I think it's that way, here in Oregon too, as well. I think that we all work really hard and a lot, and, make very little money. But I think that because we're in this like cool community together and we help each other out and even just listen and support each other, that's like enough. It's like your friendships and bonds are so much stronger because you're living this shared experience. That's really lovely.
Yeah. It is the community that keeps you going, for sure. More than anything, more than the money or lack of money. In some cases, it is the community that you can call. I can pick up my phone now and call some of these guys that have been, around in the food business for 30, 40 years. They're going to answer the phone. Hey, what's going on? Oh yeah, go talk to this person or this, so that is really one of the magical things of it. And you've got to be, if you didn't have that and I didn't have that, then you would, it is, we probably would have quit after the first, month or 2 months, that's probably the real truth. But, grinding it out, the people you meet, you guys were just at the food show, what a great energy, and it's passion first before anything else. So
it's my favorite part, hearing people's stories and why they're doing what they're doing. And then, that's why we do this podcast too. So we can share them with everybody else, because it's the people are my fave.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We do want to make sure that people can find you directly and get your products from you. So what's the best way for them to do that in Colorado and then online?
They can email me directly. It's Aaron, AARON, @elevationgourmet.com. That's probably the easiest way. Or you can go through the website, Elevation Gourmet, Google Elevation Ketchup, and go to the inquiry and find it that way. I still check all those and stay in touch with everybody you need and stuff for questions or mentoring, co-packing, what to do, what not to do. I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you what not to do. That's for sure.
Also very important.
Probably more important than what to do is what not to do. So.
Well, Aaron, thanks so much for joining us today. It was great to talk to you and get to know you and hear about what you're doing. You're doing a great job, and your products sound super rad, and I'm going to check them out. So thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And Mike, I hate to say this, but this is our final show co-hosting together.
It is a sad moment, Sarah. I've enjoyed every moment of it. Thank you so much for allowing me to co-host.
It's been so fun. It's been fun getting to know you and getting to know all the people that you knew and all the people that you bring together in Colorado. It's someday I hope to make it to your Food Innovation Center. I love to check it out and see it and meet all the people that you help. And I just think it's so great that you've been able to be part of our show.
Thank you again.
We want to thank our listeners. Thank you for listening to our show. We wouldn't be here without you. We love to connect with you online and in person. You can always reach out to Sarah and I via our Instagram, Meaningful Marketplace Podcast. We record Meaningful Marketplace live every week. You can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms like iTunes and Spotify. And now we are up on YouTube officially. And we would like to thank our team. Thank you for helping us to share the stories of food entrepreneurs. If you want to be a guest on the show, you can send us a message on our Instagram, and we will be back next week, everybody. Thanks for joining. Bye.
Bye for now.
Thanks.
You're listening to the Startup Radio Network. Listen, learn, launch. 10% of our gross revenue goes directly to women entrepreneurs in developing countries around the world through Kiva's microfinance program.